Well, rats are a different thing.
Let's talk about it. I have just read an article in the New Yorker called Harboring Rats, and it was written in 1944. But it's a fascinating article. And if you want to know anything about rats, this article is going to tell you about it. So I'm just going to read a couple segments, and then I'm just going to see what Dusty has to say about it. All right. Rats are almost as fecund as germs.
Whoa. What?
Fecund.
What does that mean?
Well, the following sentence will explain it.
Okay. All right.
Rats are almost, I might be saying it wrong. Fecund? Fecund. I think it's got to be fecund.
Either way, I don't know what it means.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I do know what it means.
1940s language. You know what I mean?
It's still a word people use.
Okay.
Rats are almost as fecund as germs. In New York, under fair conditions, they bear from 3 to 5 times a year in litters from 5 to 22. There's a record of 7 litters in 7 months from a single captured pair. The period of gestation is between 21 and 25 days. They grow rapidly and are able to breed when 4 months old. The span of life is between 3 and 5 years, although now and then one may live somewhat longer. A rat at 4 is older than a man at 90. Exterminators refer to old rats as Moby Dicks. Rats that survive to the age of 4 are the wisest and the most cynical beasts on Earth. The exterminator says, a trap means nothing to them. No matter how skillfully set, they just kick it around until it snaps. Then they eat the bait, and they can detect poisoned bait off a yard. I believe some rats can read.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty wild. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I got several rat/mice stories. I don't, I have a little bit of when I was in high school, I bought 2 mice, a male and a female mouse. We named them, names that I can't even say on the podcast. They were we named the male Debo. And from Friday.
Okay.
And the woman we gave a name that you would give a woman in a rap video.
Okay.
And
Little Kim?
Yeah. And okay. No, but yeah, like a cuss word.
Oh, okay.
And but I love those mice. And they bred.
Yeah.
And they had 3 mice. And then I went somewhere and I bought 2 more. I didn't want a lot of inbreeding going on.
That's careful of you.
And then they bred with those new mice. And then things got out of control.
What? What happened?
I had several aquariums. At my mom's house, I had the upstairs, which the bedroom the size-wise was about half the house. And I started to get aquariums. I had aquariums all over the room. I had one giant aquarium. This went on until after high school. And then I had a bunch of aquariums there with lids on them. And I had one aquarium that was the general population aquarium where I had little tubes set up where they could go into the tubes but be up against the glass so you could see them in there. It was kind of like a hiding place for them, but I could see them. And we had so many mice. And and a lot of them would be really tucked down in all these different areas. And you couldn't really see them. You could kind of see them in the glassy area that I had set up, but they would push the sawdust up around there. And I had a friend who sold weed at the time, and he sold old kind of swag weed is what we called it, and he would buy it, and he would have this big brick, and then he would bring it over to my house, and he would break it up and put it into individual baggies, and then he would have all these seeds left over. All these seeds would just fall out of it. So I would have this huge bag of seeds. And I had this little clay bowl that I had made, a very small clay bowl that I had made in high school. And I put that clay bowl kind of at the top of the structure inside of the big general population aquarium. And we would open that lid, and I would put a few of those weed seeds in that bowl and then put the lid back on it. And mice would come from everywhere in that aquarium and just crowd around that bowl. And they would just eat all those weed seeds, and they would just crush it. And I had so many mice. Sometimes they would get out, and I would have to catch them. I had a nice thing worked where if I could get them in the bathroom, I could close the door, and they couldn't get out of there. And then I had a little dustpan, and they would run up the dustpan, and they would slip and couldn't get any further. And then I would take a cup and put over the top of them on the dustpan, and then I could put them back in the cage. I got very good at catching mice. But so many mice had escaped that it had started to attract wild mice. So I caught a wild mouse with the same method. I caught a wild mouse in the bathroom, same method, and I put it in the aquarium with the other mice. And it was wild. At first, they did not get along well at all. But eventually, the wild mice got pregnant and gave birth to like some half tame, half wild mice. And you could no longer, it got to the point where you could no longer open the top and get any. Like at first, Debo and his wife, I could handle. I could hold them. They were like my pets.
Yeah.
But this had gotten so out of control, you couldn't really hold them anymore. And so you couldn't really clean it out anymore. And it started to get really bad because there were so many mice. And mice are pretty well known for eating their babies. So it was like every time a mouse gave birth, it was like they were getting eaten. And it got really bad to a place that I had to get rid of them. And I dumped them all in the woods and let them have one last free-for-all out there.
One might say they were fecund.
Yeah. I mean, I had a mouse that I mixed up this creatine water, and I would give him, he was the only mouse that would get the creatine water, and he was the only mouse with a wheel. And he was jacked. I mean, he was noticeably stronger than the other mice. I'm not kidding. He was noticeably bigger and stronger than the other mice.
So dumb.
I had a mouse that lost an eye. I had a mouse that had a growth on it that had started to grow on its back. And another mouse started eating the growth. They're very gross.
You weren't playing when you said things started to get out of control.
It did start to get. It was very fun at first. And
how do you even leave your house when you got that going on in your house?
Well,
like, I don't even know what to say about that.
I
had no idea that's who you were.
There was
shocking.
Well, we had lids on there, but we had to start putting like bricks on the lids to keep them from pushing the lids open, and it was attracting other animals too. Like I woke up twice in the same night with a squirrel on me.
What?
Yeah.
Why a squirrel?
I don't know. It was like a little squirrel, like a flying squirrel kind of thing, and yeah. Twice in one night. We had a bat in the house at one point.
Dusty Slay, what are you even talking about? Are you serious?
Yes, at my mom's place.
You woke up with a squirrel on your
Yeah.
face twice?
Not my face, but my chest.
What do?
You just jump up in fear and then it runs off.
And so were they looking for the mice?
I don't know. The mice, I think the squirrel incident, the mice were gone by that point. And these were mice, not rats, but they were mice.
Well, they're in the same vermin to me.